It's English time! Hi, I'm Teacher Mitch. Come and join me as we learn English the easy way. Subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell to keep updated with my latest uploads. Please also share and hit the like button if you appreciate my videos. Thank you! Kamusta kayo, Grade 7? Alam kong excited na kayo para sa talakayan natin ngayon. Tara na't magsimula na tayo. Our target learning competency for this video is compose literary text using appropriate structure. And here is our target learning objective. Observe the structure elements of poetry. In this video, we are going to analyze a poem and discuss its structure elements, particularly the following: character, characterization, conflict, plot, rhyme and meter, diction, tone and mood, style, patterns and motifs, figures of speech and sound devices, point of view and narrative techniques. Let's recite this poem entitled Ballad of a Mother's Heart by Jose Lavilla Tierra. The night was dark, for the moon was young, and the stars were asleep and rare. The clouds were thick, yet youth went out to see his maiden fair. Dear one, he pleaded as he knelt before her feet in tears. My love is true, why you have kept me waiting all these years. The maiden looked at him, unmoved, it seemed, and whispered low, persistent youth, you have to prove, by deeds your love is true. There's not a thing I would not do for you, beloved, said he. Then go, said she, to your mother dear, and bring her heart to me. Without another word, youth left and went to his mother dear, and opened her breast and took her heart. He did not shed a tear. Then back to his maiden fair he hastened, unmindful of the rain. But his feet slipped, and he fell down, and loud he groaned with pain. Still in his hand that bled, he held the prize that would win his maiden's hand. But he thought of his mother dear, and he heard her voice as she seemed to stand. Son, were you hurt? It was your mother's voice, and he cried aloud, Mother, mother, forgive me. But it was too late. The maiden's heart had turned to stone. After reading the poem, let us now deal with its structure elements one by one. First is character. Characters are the individuals who participate in the narrative of the poem. They can be protagonists, antagonists, or secondary characters, each contributing to the development of the poem's themes and plot. In this poem, the characters are the youth, a passionate and earnest lover who is willing to do anything for his beloved. Maiden, the object of the youth's affection who tests his love with a seemingly impossible task. Now, each character has his or her own physical descriptions, personality traits, actions, and also interacts with other characters. This is what comprises characterization. Characterization is the process by which characters are portrayed and developed in the poem. This includes their physical description, personality traits, actions, and interactions with other characters. In the poem, youth is characterized by his devotion, persistence, and emotional vulnerability. He is depicted as someone deeply committed to proving his love. Maiden is characterized by her cool demeanor and challenge. She is initially indifferent but reveals her expectations for proving love. Another structure element of poetry is conflict. Conflict refers to the central struggle or tension within the poem. Furthermore, conflict can be classified as internal or external. In internal conflict, A speaker may struggle with feelings of love and hate, duty and desire, or fear and courage. On the other hand, a poem might also depict a battle between two people, against nature, or even a clash between different ideologies. And this is what we call as external conflict. In literature, conflicts can be further categorized based on the nature of the struggle. Here's a differentiation of the three types of conflicts. Character versus character. This conflict involves a direct struggle between two characters with opposing goals or desires. In this poem, it primarily features character versus character conflict. The primary conflict in the poem is between the youth and the maiden. The youth is deeply in love and feels wronged by the maiden's delay in reciprocating his feelings. The maiden challenges him to prove his love by performing a difficult task. Number 2. Character versus society. This conflict occurs when a character faces opposition from societal norms, laws, or cultural expectations. It often involves a struggle against a societal system or collective beliefs. If the poem had involved a scenario where the youth's love was thwarted by societal expectations or norms, for example, family disapproval or social class differences, it would represent a character versus society conflict. However, this poem does not explicitly include this type of conflict. Number 3. Character versus nature or environment. This conflict involves a character struggling against natural forces or environmental conditions. It often includes challenges posed by the natural world or physical surroundings. In the poem, this type of conflict is not present. However, if the youth had to undertake a journey through a stormy night or a dangerous terrain to prove his love, it would represent a character versus nature or environment conflict. In summary, character versus character is a struggle between two characters with opposing goals or desires. Example, a hero versus a villain. Character versus society is a struggle between a character and societal norms or institutions. Example, a person fighting against social injustice. Character versus nature or environment is a struggle between a character and natural forces or environmental conditions. Example, a character battling a storm or surviving in the wilderness. Now, let's talk about plot. In poetry, the plot refers to the sequence of events or actions that unfold in the poem. We have to take note that only narrative poems have plot. This involves a beginning, middle, and end, with events that build upon each other to create a story. Plot in poetry can be linear or flashback. Linear plot is a straightforward chronological sequence of events. This poem has a linear plot since the events revolve around a single dramatic moment where the youth, having expressed his enduring love, is asked by the maiden to prove it by bringing her mother's heart. This sets up a test of the youth's sincerity and commitment. Flashback, a non-linear sequence where the narrative shifts to past events. Example, the poem might include a retrospective look at previous events affecting the current situation. Let's proceed to discussing rhyme and meter. Rhyme is the repetition of similar sounds at the end of lines. Example, moon and soon. While meter in poetry refers to the rhythmic structure of a poem, created by the arrangement of stressed and unstressed syllables in each line. It gives the poem a specific pattern and flow, often contributing to its musicality. Example, iambic pentameter. This particular stanza from the poem follows an ABAB rhyme scheme. Meanwhile, the poem appears to be written in a form of iambic tetrameter, with each line generally containing 4 metrical feet. Next is diction. Diction is the choice of words and style of expression used in the poem. Diction can be formal, informal, archaic, or contemporary, and it impacts the tone and mood of the poem. The diction in the poem is formal and somewhat archaic, using terms like beloved, dear one, and unmoved. This choice of words lends a timeless and poetic quality to the dialogue. Tone and mood. Tone is the poet's attitude towards the subject or audience. Example, serious, ironic, or joyful. In this poem, the tone is earnest and slightly melancholic, reflecting the youth's emotional state and the maiden's detached challenge. Mood is the emotional atmosphere created for the reader. Example, melancholic, suspenseful, or tranquil. In this poem, the mood is one of longing and tension, driven by the youth's desperation and the maiden's demanding test. Next is style. It is the distinctive way in which the poet expresses his or her ideas, including the use of language, structure, and literary techniques. Example, formal, colloquial, or experimental. As we analyze the poem, its style is lyrical and narrative, combining elements of storytelling with poetic expression. It uses dialogue to reveal character and advance the plot. Next is patterns and motifs, which are both important literary elements but serve different functions and are identified in distinct ways. Patterns are recurring elements or structures in a text that create a consistent form or sequence. They can be related to various aspects, including themes, plot structures, or stylistic elements. Examples: structural patterns. Repeated narrative structures like a series of events that follow a specific sequence. Thematic patterns. Recurring themes or ideas that appear throughout the text. Rhythm and meter. Repeated patterns in the structure of lines or verses in poetry. While motifs are recurring elements, symbols, or ideas in a literary work that have particular significance and contribute to the development of the theme or the narrative. Examples: symbolic motifs. A recurring symbol such as a specific object or image. Conceptual motifs. Recurring ideas or concepts. In the poem, patterns could include the rhyme scheme AB, and the consistent dialogue format that structures the narrative. Whereas, the motif might be the testing of love represented by the maiden's challenge to the youth, which reflects the theme of proving one's sincerity. To summarize, patterns focus on structural or formal repetitions in a text, while motifs focus on recurring symbols or ideas that contribute to thematic development. Next is figures of speech. Kung gusto nyong mapanood ang more detailed discussion natin about dito, go ahead and watch our Week 4 lesson about literary devices. As explained in our previous video, figures of speech are literary devices that use language in imaginative ways to convey meanings or create effects. Examples include simile, metaphor, and personification. Our example poem illustrates metaphor and personification. Metaphor. The youth's emotional state is metaphorically represented by the dark night and rare stars. Personification. The moon is described as young, attributing it with human-like qualities. If there are figures of speech, we also have sound devices. Kagaya ng na-mention ko na rin sa previous video natin, sound devices are techniques used to enhance the auditory quality of the poem. Examples include alliteration, or the repetition of consonant sounds at the beginning of words. Assonance, repetition of vowel sounds within words. Onomatopoeia, words that imitate natural sounds. Our example poem contains assonance. The clouds were thick, yet youth went out to see his maiden fair. The repetition of the ow sound in clouds, youth, and out creates a unity in the verse, emphasizing the youthful determination despite the dark setting. It also has alliteration. My love is true, why you have kept me waiting all these years. The repetition of the w sound in why and waiting emphasizes the youth's frustration and longing. Point of view. Itong point of view na to ay na-discuss na rin natin in full detail sa previous video lesson natin. So again, point of view is the perspective from which the poem is narrated. It can be first person using I, second person using you, or third person using he, she, or they. Going back to our sample poem, it is written in the third person, narrating the interaction between the youth and the maiden from an external perspective. And lastly, narrative techniques. Narrative techniques are methods used to tell the story within the poem, such as dialogue or the conversations between characters, imagery, descriptive language that appeals to the senses, symbolism, using symbols to represent ideas or concepts. The Ballad of a Mother's Heart by Jose La Villatierra employs several narrative techniques to convey its poignant and emotional story. These techniques help to create a vivid and impactful narrative that resonates with the reader. Here are some of the key narrative techniques used in the poem. First is dialogue. The poem uses dialogue to convey the interactions between the son and his lover, and later between the son and his mother. For example, when the son's lover asks for his mother's heart as proof of his love, the dialogue makes this shocking request feel more real and dramatic. Symbolism. The mother's heart. The heart in the poem is a powerful symbol of a mother's unconditional love and sacrifice. The act of the son taking his mother's heart is symbolic of the ultimate betrayal and the extreme lengths to which blind love can drive a person. Thanks for watching!